Maybe 15 years ago, my dean came to me and basically told me that I would have a blind student in my atmosphere and space science class. And I teach in the planetarium, which is totally visual. That time I was very intimidated. I was very scared because I was thinking, how am I going to make this visual class accessible to the student who can't even see? Well, it turns out that here on campus at the time, we had a tactile lab and this person, John Matelock, would do some tactile materials for students that are blind. He also just happened to have a love for astronomy and was an amateur astronomer. So I hooked up with him, and the rest is history, as they say. We started to develop astronomy tactile material for our students, and that led to a tactile star chart. That was one of our first products that we produced, because in the planetarium we spend a lot of time learning constellations, major stars, a little bit about the seasons, and those things really had to be visual. All textbooks can be brailled for you and should be brailled for you if you need them. The problem isn't so much the text, because that can be done. It's time consuming, it's oftentimes too late or after the fact, which is something we need to do better on, is to get this material accessible to them immediately. But that's really not the problem. One of the major problems, particularly in sciences, are the diagrams, are the pictures that go with the text. Those can't be just produced automatically like you can braille text. All you have to do is have a PDF of it and you can braille it out. An image, a picture, a diagram has to take a lot more thought, has to take a lot more effort. So that's where we have made these books very tactual in the diagrams. So in other words, our text is minimalized. Our tactiles are actually the crowning achievement of our books. We want to try to make our images feel like they actually look. In order to do that, we use all sorts of creative materials on our masters. Basically, it starts with a conception, an idea, a picture. So for example, here was a NASA picture. It's just a printed 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper of an actual picture from the Curiosity rover. You can see the rover's robotic arm and the camera attachments, and in the distance is the mountain that we went to study on Mars called Mount Sharp. So it starts with a picture. So what we have to do is we have to develop a master that matches that picture. So this is the master that we created of Mount Sharp. It's labeled in braille up in the top and upper right-hand corner. And you can see the robotic arm and the camera mount, and in the distance is Mount Sharp. So here you can see the difference and the similarities between the actual picture on top and the tactile on the bottom. Once you have a master produced, then you can make the tactiles. To do that, we use this machine right here called a thermoform machine. It's a very simple process. It uses heat and a vacuum. Heat and a vacuum will form these beautiful tactiles. So what you do is you simply put the master on the frame. You take a sheet of plastic called braille-on. You place the braille-on onto the thermoform machine, put the frame down, and then this portion, you pull the heat over it and set the time. It'll heat it up for a few seconds, usually 4 or 5 seconds. After 4 or 5 seconds, the vacuum pump will come on. You slide it off, and we would peel off the braille-on, and we would have a finished product of the camera mast and the camera attachments with Mount Sharp in the background, all made from this master right there. We have to collate all the sheets together. We have to print it out, and then we take it to a bindery in Erie, Pennsylvania, who binds it for us, and we have a finished product at the end with the tactiles in there. And then what we do is we beta test these with blind people that can look at them and study them and feel them and give us their opinion.
My name is Ken Quinn. I'm the tactile graphics specialist for Haptically Speaking, as well as some other projects. A lot of times tactile graphics are too subtle, so when you're bringing your hands over the whole graphic, you might miss a crater, you might miss, a ring, you might miss a arm of a camera, even if it is labeled in braille, just because it's blending in with the rest of the graphic, or because of the paper that's on, or there's a lot of dimensions that go into why you might miss part of the graphic. Making it more diverse and more intensive for the particular thing that you're trying to point out, and more boldly. So if you're trying to create a crater, for example, you'd want the rims of the crater to be more defined so you could see the center of the crater while you're moving your hands over it. Otherwise, if it's just a small indentation around the walls of the crater, it oftentimes can either be misleading or you might not even see it at all.
Even students that are sighted really can learn from these books because they can get their hands on it. They can touch the actual thing. They're called what we would call 2.5D. We don't use full 3D models. We use actual 2.5D, so they're raised images and diagrams in these tactile books.
The difference between raised line drawings and what we produce are like night and day. A raised line drawing can be very graphically pleasing to the visual eye, could be very colorful. However, if you just have something outlined, depending on the knowledge base of the student or the person that it's sitting in front of will totally depend on what they get out of it. For somebody that's in middle school, elementary school, high school, raised line drawing, you'll have to explain a lot of the details to, and oftentimes would have to even put their finger on where you want them to be. In comparison with making graphics how they look, feel how they look, so basically taking a graphic and making it feel how it looks to the sighted eye is totally different, because you're seeing all the dimensions of the particular item. You're seeing the rings around Saturn, you're seeing all the craters in the moon, you're seeing the volcanoes in the Atlantic Ocean when it's done by making something that's just plain two-dimensional, three-dimensional to the sighted eye to a two-dimensional graphic that's tactile for the blind and visually impaired.
Every book comes with a CD. On that CD, there is an accessible PDF file that you can access the text. Also, there's a professionally recorded audio file of the text, so you can listen to it or you can download the PDF. The beauty of that is that to produce all the braille adds a lot to the cost of the production of the book and would make the book rather thick. And so by providing it on a disc, we've saved money and we save space also. And most users that are blind have what's called refreshable braille. And if you use that refreshable braille, you can put the disc in your computer, you have a little braille pad out in front of you, and you can read the text in braille, and you can scroll down at your leisure, at your speed of reading.
To the left of the A is a rough area, and to the right of the A is a rough area. How many finger widths is it across? If you multiply your number of finger widths times 174 kilometers, what is your prediction for how large the particular mare is?
I could be in the atmosphere and space science class and sit down with a whole bunch of sighted peers and be on the same playing field, same everything, take the test in the same amount of time, the quiz in the same amount of time. With a star chart, you do the same exact things that Dr. Hurd was showing on the dome of the planetarium at the same speed, and nobody was held back. So it was totally inclusive.
These books are just one other way for students with special needs to understand and to learn about the beauty of space and the wonders of astronomy. And so I think that that is the biggest thing that we want our users to come away with, is just the appreciation of those details that you can find in our solar system. And that's what we're really proud of.